Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to a Sparkball tutorial video. Today we're gonna go over some general gameplay and ball tips, but before we do that, before I lose you to a long intro, I just want to tell you that I'm gonna put on the site right there all of the elements I'm gonna cover in this video. So if you want to jump ahead and skip something you already know, you can do that. I'm gonna put time codes in the description and the timeline. You're welcome to go where you want to go if you want to see something very specific. But with that, let's waste no more time and jump into it, starting with the basics. This portion of the video is for those who want to start at the very beginning. If you don't know what Sparkball is, if you don't know how to win Sparkball, those very core elements, this is where you're going to want to start. And to do so, we're going to follow the structure of the in-game tutorial. First off, this is what Sparkball looks like. It's a top-down view, MOBA style, brawler style game with some sports elements incorporated to it. First, our movement is on the WASD keys, which means it's very standard, very traditional movement. You can go left and right, up and down, and in diagonals. We also use the mouse. The mouse will let us aim our spells and abilities. As for camera, if you are used to MOBAs like League of Legends or Dota 2, you may be used to moving your camera by going to the edge of your screen and pushing with your mouse. This is not how Sparkball operates. The camera movement is mainly dictated by the movement of your character. It will follow your character and always keep it in shot. Our camera movement is also dictated in part in a lesser way by our mouse. You can see when I move my mouse, my camera shifts a little bit in that direction. It may not be intuitive at first if you've played other MOBAs, but it will quickly become very intuitive because it follows where you're focusing. If there's a team fight happening here and you want to deal damage to these two enemies, well, your mouse is gonna go there and your camera is gonna follow. First off, every character has basic attacks on the left mouse button. Basic attacks are on a low cooldown and they don't take any resources, so they're a reliable way to get a little bit of damage in. This character is a ranged character, which means its basic attacks follow a straight line skill shot. Melee characters have basic attacks that follow more of a cone shape in front of them and have lower range. Some characters have charged basic attacks. In this case, if you hold left mouse button, it will deal more damage and will also knock back enemies. Every character has 4 abilities. The first one is on the right mouse button. The second ability is always a movement ability on spacebar. The third one is on Q. And the last one is on R. This one is the ultimate abilities. It has a much longer cooldown, but it also has a much bigger effect. There are 2 utility spells shared by all characters. The first one is a Mount on Z. Your mount allows you to move faster, but you will also lose it if you cast a spell or if you're damaged. The second one is a recall on B, which allows you to teleport back to your base. Both of these spells are channeled, which means they take a little bit of time to activate, and if you are damaged or moved during that time, they will be cancelled. As the game progresses, you're gonna earn some gold, either by taking part in takedowns or by destroying these crates. Gold can be used to buy items. To do so, open the shop with the P key. To buy an item, simply double-click on it. At the beginning of the game, you get 1 free item between Striker and Battery. These items are meant to solidify your role either as a damage dealer or as a tank. Regular items can also fit 2 categories. The first one is damage and the second one is defense. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Now for the most important part, the ball. Sparkball is won exclusively through the sports gameplay. To win a game, you need to win 2 rounds. To win a round, you need to score, which means you can have 10 times more kills than the enemy teams. If you're not playing the ball, you will not win. There are two phases to the sports gameplay. The first one is the tower, and the second one is the goal or captain. Let's go over what you have to do. To grab the ball, simply walk over it. Once you have the ball, you can throw it or pass it with the shift key. You can charge your throw to throw farther. When you carry the ball, you gain fatigue. If this bar fills up completely, you will automatically lose control of the ball and throw it into the air. Fatigue fills up passively, but taking damage also gives you fatigue, reducing drastically the amount of time you can carry. To win the round, you need to score, but before you can even do so, you need to destroy the tower. The tower is a defense mechanism. If you go in range of the enemy team's tower, it will start attacking you. To destroy the tower, you need to throw the ball in to disable it. It will also deal 20% damage.
Enemy tower disabled.
Once the tower is disabled, orbs will appear. If you destroy an orb, it will deal 10% damage, which here should be enough to destroy the tower.
Enemy tower down.
It's good to note that when the tower is destroyed or when it ejects the ball, it will push back any enemy in range. Another way to deal damage to the enemy team's tower or captain, depending on the phase you're in, is by capturing the cannon. The cannon periodically shoots cannonballs, dealing damage to the tower or captain. To capture the cannon, all you have to do is stand next to it for a few seconds without any enemy near. But keep in mind, the enemy team can do the same, so don't take it for granted after you've captured it. Once the tower is destroyed, the enemy team's captain will enter the fray, and the second phase starts. Before you can score, you have to take down the captain. Be careful though, the captain does have abilities if you get close enough that can stun you and damage you. There are 3 ways to damage the captain. The first one is using your regular abilities. The second one is by carrying the ball and being close enough to them, which will passively reduce their health. The last and most effective, or at the very least, the quickest way to deal damage to the enemy team's captain is by throwing the ball at the barrier, which will deal a huge amount of damage. Once you take down the captain, you're free to score.
Enemy captain down.
Win 2 rounds in this way, and the game is yours. There you have it. That was the in-game tutorial for Sparkball, the very foundation of the game and the core elements. Now, I know that was a bit long for a tutorial, but understand that explaining everything verbally is much longer than just trying it out for yourself, so I highly recommend you do just that. Before you start your first game, just jump into the tutorial and get a feel for it. With that said, let's jump into our second portion of this video, which will be general tips. So that was a tutorial. It's pretty great to have a global overview of the game and the foundation of Sparkball, but it doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't clearly state facts that I feel are important to understand the game. So I'm going to try to do just that. This is going to be a lightning round of information, facts, and tips I feel like help you grasp the game better. Number 1. There is a minimap at the bottom right of your screen. Although you cannot see the whole battlefield with your camera because you cannot move it beyond your own character, you can see every character and the ball at all time on the minimap because there is no fog of war, so do not neglect the amount of information you can get from it. Number 2. Although they are present in the tutorial, it's not clearly stated what these green pickups do. Well, it may be very obvious to some, but this is a healing globe, which means if you walk over it, you're gonna be healed a little bit. Number 3. Speaking of pickups, this yellow one is an ultimate globe. If you pick it up, it will reduce the cooldown of your ultimate. Number 4. This one is pretty intuitive when you see it in the game, but it's not in the tutorial, so I'll let you know that there are 5 healing machines in the battlefield, 2 next to each goal, and 1 at the top of the map. To activate the healing, just press F next to one of these machines. Number 5. Crates not only give gold to the player that destroys them, they also leave behind an ultimate orb. Number 6. You're also invulnerable for a few moments after you got on battlefield, which means it's no use dumping all of your damage on a target that just got here. Number 7. The regulation time is 5 minutes. After that, you enter overtime. In overtime, towers take a little bit of damage passively. Your death timer will also increase over time, and it can almost get doubled. Number 8. There is a jump pad on either side of the map at the top that lets you jump to the middle of the map at the bottom. Number 9. There's also an accelerator at the bottom of the map on either side that allows you to increase your movement speed. Number 10. You have 4 slots for items, but items can also be upgraded, so if you have any gold left but no more slots, make sure to upgrade your items. You can see the effect of the upgraded item on the right. On the topic of items, it's good to note that unlike many other games, you can open the shop anywhere on the battlefield. Number 11. If you want to know what your enemies took for items, you can press tab to open a very handy information menu. Number 12. If you're low on health with no way to recover on the battlefield, you can recall to your base, which will allow you to regenerate quickly. Number 13. There is a ping system on the wiki, which is a quick way to give information to your teammates, like I'm open or I'm going there. It's also visible on the minimap. Number 14. It's good to note that Sparkball is a 4v4 game, which means both teams will be composed of 4 players. It also means it's a team effort, so you cannot solo everything by yourself. Be a good teammate and stay OPTI.
Enemy tower disabled.
Now that does it for our general tips. 14 things I feel like are pretty core elements, pretty simple things you should know, but are not mentioned in the tutorial. Now, before you mention it in the comments, yes, I did change shirt. It's another day. What you gonna do about it? But with that, let's jump into our next portion of the video, which is going to be ball tips. Now, we talked about the general gameplay, the core elements, the very simple thing of the game in general, but that leaves a pretty significant portion out, the ball gameplay, which is crucial to the game because that's how you win. So we're gonna go into that right now. We're gonna talk about a few things that I feel like are very useful to know about the ball, carrying, scoring, and all that jazz. So here are a few things you should know about the ball, carrying, and scoring. Number 1. You have 20 seconds to carry the ball if nothing happens to you and you don't take damage. Fatigue will not start to tick up before 9 seconds, and then you have an additional 11 seconds to do something with the ball, or you're gonna lose control. Number 2. With a fully charged throw and a clear path, you can throw the ball a quarter of the map. Number 3. Picking up the ball has a lot of bonuses. It pushes back enemies, boosts your movement speed, and gives you a shield, so make sure to pass that ball around. Number 4. When you're carrying the ball, you don't have access to your movement ability on spacebar, but you can still attack and use all of your other abilities. Number 5. You can cancel a throw with the right mouse button. Number 6. After 9 seconds on the ground, the ball will automatically reset to the center of the field if no one picks it up.
Sparkball reset.
Number 7. You cannot recall nor mount up when you have the ball. Number 8. Throwing the ball into the tower deals 20% damage, and destroying an orb deals 10%. Since 3 orbs are spawned, that means you can deal 50% of the tower's health in 1 throw. That also means you only need 2 throws in an ideal world to destroy the tower. Number 9. Throwing the ball into the tower disables it for 10 seconds. Number 10. Throwing the ball at an enemy under their tower does not give them the ball and also stuns them. Number 11. Throwing the ball into the tower gives you and your teammates the same shield and movement speed bonus that picking up the ball would. Number 12. Once it is captured, the cannon will fire a cannonball every 10 seconds, which will deal 5% damage to the tower or captain. Number 13. Overtime cannot kill the captain nor destroy the tower, and the cannon can only destroy the tower. It cannot finish off the captain. Number 14. The captain stays down only for 20 seconds. If after that duration there is still no goal scored, he will come back, but every time he comes back, he has less health.
Enemy captain is back.
Number 15. It is possible for you to intercept one of your own teammates' shots, so if you see one of your teammates trying to go for a score, get out of the way. So there you have it, some tips and tricks, the little tidbits of information I believe are good to know before you jump into Sparkball concerning the ball gameplay and the sports element of the game. But now that we have these core elements, the simple things you need to know about Sparkball to play it optimally, let's jump into pro tips and strategies. So we went over the core gameplay mechanics and the simplest elements of Sparkball individually, one by one. And now we're gonna try to combine them to make strategies that make you as efficient as possible on the battlefield. Now, a disclaimer to tell you that these strategies are still on the theory crafting phase. We don't know if they're gonna stay the prevalent strategies in Sparkball for now. We're still in alpha, but I take those from last week's tournament, the Sparkball Invitational, where we saw top tier orgs brawl it out like Fanatics, Cloud9, Team Liquids, and so many other with professional video game players. And a lot of these strategies proved to be very effective then. So there's some backing to it. So this first strategy was utilized by our invitational champions, Team Fnatic, who really used it to get an early lead and to dominate the early game, basically. So as soon as they grabbed the ball during the tower phase, what they would do is they would send teammates behind the tower, because the enemy team was usually focused on defending the front, which they should, but that let the teammate that stayed in the front of the tower pass with a wide angle, and as soon as their teammate behind the tower could grab the ball, it was a very easy score and a very easy way to disable the tower. So that's how they managed to destroy the tower, sometimes I believe under a minute, which is incredibly fast. Okay, number 2 is going to be tied in with number 3. Sometimes you have control of the ball, but your teammates are dead, and you cannot go against the enemy team because they have a numbers advantage. In that case, it's totally okay to turtle a little bit with the ball. Wait for your teammates to respawn, wait for your teammates to make it an even fight, and keep the ball out of reach of the enemy team, so you can stay behind your tower if you still have your tower, or near your team captain. This strategy works because it's much better to have the ball and have an even fight 20 seconds later than to just die and give the ball to your enemy team when your teammates are all still dead. It's a double-edged sword for sure, because if you stay here and the enemy team does catch you, well, the ball is right there, so they can throw it in the tower or in the goal very easily, but you do have the advantage of having the damage from the tower or your captain to help you in team fights. Now, strategy number 3 is kind of the opposite. It's what to do when the enemy team is turtling. Now, I know turtling can be frustrating and you can think the enemy team is just stalling and that's making you waste your time, but in Sparkball, it's really not the case. There is so much on the battlefield you can do, even if the enemy team is keeping the ball away from you in their own territory and you cannot get to it. There's a lot you can do. You can destroy these crates to fill up your ultimate, and make sure you have before the next team fight, which is going to be a huge advantage. You can capture the cannon, which will start shipping at their tower or captain, which is also very good to do. You can also, if you have a little bit of a numbers advantage while they turtle, you can grab their ultimate orb, which is going to be not only a bonus for you, but it's also going to be very bad for them because they won't have their ultimates in the next fight. And at some point, if you have all of your players, you can definitely come behind the goal and start attacking them, and at some point you'll be just so buffed with items and ultimates that even their turtling won't stop you. So don't freak out if they start turtling, don't get frustrated and tilted, just start farming everything on the battlefield and take the advantage there. Number 4. When the captain is low, it may be a good idea to keep the ball and not throw it in the barrier, because that will allow you a quicker score if you can take him down without throwing the ball into the barrier. Okay, the next one may sound a little bit stupid to some, maybe it sounds like a given, but don't forget your items. Especially don't forget your armbands at the beginning of the game, because if you do, you're in a huge disadvantage. These give some good bonuses and they are free. So at the beginning of the game, the first thing you should do when you jump into the game, when you are here and before the gates open, you should pick an armband. And every time you die or every time you're back here because you had to back or between rounds, it's a good idea to open your shop and just check if you have the gold to buy a new item or to buy a new augment to your item. Even though you can open your shop anywhere on the map, you're probably going to want to do it when you're not in a fight. So whenever you're here, just take the habit of pressing P and opening your shop. Okay, the next one I do believe Fnatic did, but I'm not sure I could find footage to back that claim. But if you're in a team fight and you have control of the ball during the tower phase, but the team fight is kind of going evenly, maybe a little bit in the enemy team's favor, you can still press on if you believe that will allow you to get the ball into the tower, because that will give all of your team a shield and a movement boost, and that can really turn a fight around. If you throw in the tower and one of your teammates was low and maybe about to die, but you give them a shield, that's enough for them to get a couple auto attacks in and to take down an enemy team's member, well, that can really turn a fight around. So it can be, and this one is that it's conditional. It's not always a good idea, but it can be a good idea to press a fight a little bit if that will allow you to score, because that can turn the fight around in itself. About the tower, there's also one key mistake that a lot of players do when they're new to the game, is when they throw the ball into the tower, they often go for the orbs. It's not a bad idea, but sometimes you just want to throw into the tower. That's 20% damage, that's really significant already, and the orbs only deal 10%. So unless you have your team with you, it's often a better idea, if you're behind here and you see your team starting to die, to throw the ball in and just start back. And either by recalling or putting getting on your mount and going away, because that damage it's significant. You don't have to do anything more for that to be worth it, and starting to back if your team is not there to back you up is the best idea, because otherwise you can start to stagger death timers, and that's not gonna help you on the long run, because the enemy team is gonna be able to grab the ball, and if you're dead 10 seconds after your team and it's a 4v3 at your tower, well, the enemy team is likely to win the team fight and score, and then, well, not only did that not help you, well, they're gonna probably then have the time to destroy the orbs as a team, and then your you're not in a good position. So if you can throw the ball into the tower, that's great. But sometimes that's all you need, and you don't need to overcommit to the orbs. In that same vein, another strategy you should think about is if your team barely makes it out of a team fight and you do get a couple of picks, but you're all low now, it's a good idea to not overcommit. Maybe throw the ball into the tower if you're in the tower phase, or get one score in and then back to replenish your health, because otherwise the enemy team will have a very easy time to pick you apart one by one if you're all low and they all come back at the same time with full health. So if you can back after a team fight, if you're all low on your team, that's really worth the time it takes. Even if it doesn't allow you to get as much damage on the tower as you would like, or as much damage on the captain as you would like, it's still a better idea than overcommitting. Our next tips is about the ball. It's very simple to do, but you just have to remember to do it. It's pass the ball around. It's not only good for your positioning if you're open and you have an open teammate you can throw to and pass the ball to, but it's also very good because it gives you the shield and movement speed bonus. And you see, it's a pretty significant shield. If you get the ball 2 or 3 times during a team fight, that can be the difference between life and death. So pass the ball around and let your teammates get that sweet shield and movement speed bonus. Our next tip may be fairly intuitive if you've played other brawlers, but if you come from another genre like I did, it's not as easy to remember it as it sounds, but it's basically use your basic attacks. They cost nothing, they are quick, they are fairly easy way to get some damage in. Even if you miss some of them, it doesn't matter. Try not to miss, of course, but even if you do, it didn't cost you any mana or resource, so throw your basic attacks at your enemies anytime you have the chance. If someone's chasing after you, throw your basic attacks. If you're chasing after someone, try your basic attacks. They may not be in range, maybe they are, you don't know. It costs nothing to just keep that button pressed all the time, unless you're casting like another ability. You should probably always use your basic attacks, and that's true also when you are in control of the ball, when you're carrying, because you can still auto attack and you can still use most of your abilities, so don't hesitate to do so. Keep your important cooldowns. Of course, if you're carrying, don't throw your abilities away, but your auto attacks, you can just press all the time. Now for the penultimate tip, I'm gonna ask Mr. Piccolo to take it away. That's right, in Sparkball it may be even more important mechanically to dodge than to aim, because a lot of abilities are telegraphed. Look at how much time you have to get out of the way of Snooker's right mouse button. It's a lot of time, and you should use that time to get out of the way of big abilities as much as possible. Same thing for the ultimate. You see it coming. Unless you're next to it, it can take a long time to get to you, and that's time you have to dodge. It's much harder to make sure someone will be where you expect them to be in 2 seconds than to get out of the way of an ability that was already thrown, that cannot change direction now and you can move out of. So you should dodge as much as possible. That is how Fanatics managed to come out of a lot of team fights, a lot of big team fights, looking kind of peachy, looking much more alive than they should after such long team fights, because they avoided as much damage as possible, while the enemy teams did not always do so. So Fanatics could dish out their damage without taking too much damage. So as much as possible, try to avoid taking damage and try to dodge key abilities. Often, the bigger the abilities, the more time you have to get out of the way. Our last tip on this video is to be mindful of your movement ability, because if you don't have your spacebar up, you are much more vulnerable. You cannot dodge big abilities as easily. But That's also true for the enemy team, so try to be mindful of their movement ability. If you see a Hammond jumping into your team, well, you have a couple of seconds where Hammond cannot move quickly, so that's where you should bring out the big guns. That's where you want to use your big abilities, even maybe your ultimate, where it's going to be much harder for Hammond to dodge than when he can simply jump away. So try to keep that in mind and try to see when someone engages your team, that's when you punish them. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope it helped you with the early access coming up this weekend. I'm super excited to play with a bunch of you, and if you followed along up until now, you're probably already at an advantage because I don't think a lot of people will see this video before early access, so good job, already got an edge on a lot of players. And with that, if you're an experienced player, once again, let me know what you think I missed. If you're a new player, let me know what you would like to see next. And on that note, I'll see you next time.